So today we're going to look at some applications of solving linear equations. The first example is going to be translating a sentence in English words into a mathematical equation and then solving it. So let's look at this first example. The words say 14 less than 3/4 of a number is -8. So we got to digest this. You see 14 less, so what does that mean you're going to do? You're going to take -14. 14 less than 3/4 of a number. Well, if you see that keyword of, that's going to be multiplication. So 3/4 of a number, I'm going to call that number x. Okay? So then that next part is, that's always going to mean equals -8. So if I rewrite this, I take 14 less than 3/4 of a number, so it's going to look like 3/4 x minus 14 equals -8. So now that I've got my equation there, I can actually start to solve it. So first thing I'm going to do is add 14 to both sides. Leaves 3/4 x on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, I've got 6. And then I got to get rid of 3/4, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 4/3. Cross cancel on the left-hand side leaves me just with x. On the right-hand side, I can simplify that a little bit. 3 goes to 1, 6 goes to 2. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so that's how you translate a sentence into an equation. It's very important to understand what's going on there. So I've got a practice problem for you. Go ahead and try this out and then check your work. So you can check your work on this practice one. It's a little bit more tricky, mainly because of the part that's in red. So you're taking 3 times something. That something is the sum of a number and 5. So that 3 times is that entire expression x plus 5. So that's why I got to throw it on parentheses. And then I can use the distributive property and solve from there. So make sure you jot down if you have a question about that. And let's move on to the next application problem. The next one that we look at is solving an equation and then using it to evaluate an expression. So you might see this a couple times. It's very big on the SAT. So if you see something like 12 equals -7a minus 9, I'm going to rewrite that just off to the side here. That's the equation we're going to solve to start. Okay, so afterwards we're going to do this, but just to start, we actually need to find what a is. So I got to solve this equation. 12 equals -7a minus 9. I'm going to add 9 to both sides. 12 plus 9, that's going to give me 21, equals -7a. So to close this out, I'm going to divide both sides by -7. And I get a equals -3. Okay, so that's my first part. Now that I know what a is, I can evaluate this expression 5a plus 13. So I want to evaluate 5a plus 13. I know what a is, so I'm going to plug -3 in every time I see an a. So when I do that, I get 5 times -3 plus 13. So 5 times -3 is -15. -15 plus 13 is going to give me an answer of -2. All right, so this is like a two-part question. First, you got to solve your equation that's given to you, and then use that value to use the value of the variable to evaluate an expression. All right, try out this practice problem, and then you can go over it once I throw up the work. So here's the work for your practice example on evaluating an expression after you solve. So you'll see, first thing that I did was solve this equation, and I got n to be 16. So next, I need to look at this expression, and I need to simplify that expression. So every time I see an n there, I'm going to plug in the 16 that I found n to be. And then once you simplify all that down, you get 29. So this expression right here simplifies to give you 29 once you figure out that n equals 16. And the last practice problem we're going to do is an actual real-world application. So the last two have been very mathy. Now we're actually going to look at a real-world example. So the selling price of a television in a retail store is $66 less than 3 times the wholesale price. If the selling price of a television is $8.99, write and solve an equation to find the wholesale price of the television. So, a lot of information to pull in there. Okay? The first thing you always want to do is figure out, what are you trying to solve for? I'm trying to find the wholesale price of the television. So I'm going to define a variable. I'm going to say W. I'm going to say W means the wholesale price of the TV. So now that we know what we're solving for, we got to actually write an equation here. So this means we got to dissect the words in here, just like we did a couple of examples ago, to write an equation. So let's see what we know. We know the selling price of a television in a retail store is $66 less than 3 times the wholesale price. If the selling price of a television is $8.99, okay, so I know what the selling price is. So the selling price is $8.99. And the selling price is, so we see that's going to be an equal sign, $66 less than 3 times the wholesale price. So I'm going to find 3 times the wholesale price, and then I got to find $66 less than that. So I got to subtract 66. So there's our equation, okay? And that's what I need to solve in the next step. So the sale price is 3 times the wholesale price minus 66. So let's solve this now. The first thing I need to do to both sides, add 66. So that goes away. On the right-hand side, 3W is going to be by itself. And on the left-hand side, we're going to get 965. Then the last thing I got to do to both sides is divide by 3. Okay, let me use my calculator real quick. Divided by 3. And the wholesale price is going to be about $321.67. So you can round that up to $322. So the wholesale price of the TV is $322. One thing I wanted to add on this. So we found the wholesale price of the TV to be $321.67. I rounded that up to $322. So in part D, I'm going to say the wholesale price of the TV is about $322. So since we rounded that, it's not exactly $322, but that's about $322. Okay? Now, I want you to do this practice one. You want a new pair of Converse. So you want to go buy some shoes? Go ahead and try this one out, and then check your work with my work. Okay, so here's the work for the Converse example. All right, you want a new pair of Converse. The store sells them for $59. You already have $13 saved, and you're going to save $4 per week from your allowance. How many weeks will it take you before you can buy the shoes? So check out that equation, okay? You're trying to find weeks. How many weeks? That's your variable, okay? You want to figure out how many weeks it's going to take until you can afford that $59. So whatever your equation equals, it's going to equal 59. You already have $13 saved. So however much you get from your allowance, you already have $13 saved. So that's why we can add 13 to that. And you're going to save $4 per week. So if you have 1 week, you've saved $4. If you have 2 weeks, you've saved a total of $8. If you have 10 weeks, you've saved a total of $40. So that's why it's 4 times W there. Okay, so we solve that. We get an answer of 11.5. So interpreting that, you can't take 11.5 weeks. All right, if you look down at 11 weeks, well, that's not going to be enough time for you to be able to afford them. So you got to round that up. It's going to take you 12 weeks until you can buy those shoes. All right, so I know this was a little bit longer of a video, but application problems are very important. So hopefully these help you out on your worksheet or whatever you need to do in order to make sure you understand these. All right, have a good night.